Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope you are all fine. Today we are going to continue explaining the steps of the accounting cycle. We have explained before that the accounting cycle starts by having a source document that indicates that a financial transaction had occurred. After that, the accountant starts to record these transactions within the journal. Today we are going to go further and discuss the next step, which is posting to ledger and preparing the trial balance. So in order to post to ledger, we should follow a certain steps. These steps start by counting how many accounts do we have within the journal, and each account should be counted only once, because each account is going to have one corresponding T account within the ledger. So we start by counting all the accounts we have within the journal, and we make sure that we only counted each account once. Then we open a T account for every counted account, just as I said, within the journal. Then we post or we transfer every figure to its corresponding account within the ledger. And finally, we calculate the balance for each account, which is the difference between the debit and the credit side per account. To illustrate how we do posting to ledger, we have these two entries from the previous example, January 1 and January 2, and gonna see how we can post these transactions or these entries to the ledger. We start by counting how many accounts do we have here. We have cash 1, capital 2, building 3, cash again, we are not going to count it, so notes payable 4. We have 4 accounts, each account is counted once. So we're gonna open 4 accounts, 40 accounts for each one. One for cash, 1 T account for capital, 1 T account for building, 1 T account for notes payable. And we start in order. We start by cash is the first account we have, equals to 45,000 in the debit side. So we're going to move to cash account. In the debit side, we're gonna place 45,000 like this, and we're going to write beside it the opposite account for cash within the entry, which is capital. So you're gonna write beside these 45,000, you're gonna write capital. Then move to capital. Capital is in the credit side with 45,000. Here is the account for capital. Within the credit side, we're gonna place 45,000, and we write beside it as an explanation the opposite for capital within the entry, which is cash, like this. So by this we have posted the first journal entry to the ledger. Let's move to January 2. We are doing it in order, so we're gonna start by building. Within the debit side, 140,000. This is the T account for building. In the debit side, we're gonna place 140,000. And for more explanation, we're gonna write beside the figure the opposite accounts within the journal entry, which is cash and notes payable, like this. Then move to cash. Cash equals to 28,000 in the credit. We're going to move to the cash account. In the credit side, we're gonna place 28,000 and write beside it building. We're gonna write beside it building. Then gonna move to notes payable. Notes payable equals to 112,000 in the credit. This is the T account for notes payable. In the credit side, we're gonna place 112,000, and beside it you're gonna write building. This is how we post or how we transfer the figures from the journal to the ledger. From the previous example, we have this journal. This is the journal we have done previously. January 1, January 2, January 5, January 12, January 14, 20, and 28. These are the journal entries we have recorded previously within the journal. Let's see how we are going to post all these transactions to the ledger. As I just said, we are going to count how many accounts do we have. We have cash 1, Jack Capital 2, building 3, notes payable 4, equipments 5, supplies 6, accounts payable 7, utilities expenses 8, accounts receivable 9, fees revenues 10. We have 10 accounts, and each account is only counted once, like I have just said. So we are going to open 10 T accounts for each one of these. So we are going to make a T account for cash and post or transfer all the figures of cash within the T account of cash. Here are the debit figures, here are the credit figures, and we are going to do the same for all the 10 accounts. By now we have a debit side with some figures and another credit side with some figures. Let's see how we calculate the balance for each account. We just add the debit side and add the credit side and choose the biggest and place it here down there in both sides, in the debit and the credit. Then we make a subtraction. We subtract this total from these figures. Here the end result will be 0, so no balance here. But by subtracting 47,500 from the figures within the credit side, we're gonna find that the difference equals to 11,000. These 11,000, I'm gonna drag it to the debit side because the debit side is greater than the credit side by 11,000. We're going to continue doing this for all the accounts we have, for building, for equipment, for Jack Capital. I'm gonna transfer and post all the figures of these accounts from the journal to its place within the ledger. We keep continuing doing this for supplies, notes payable, accounts payable. But let's see how we calculate the balance, for example, for the accounts payable. For accounts payable, we have 2,000 in the debit side and 3,000 within the credit side. So which is bigger? Of course, the 3,000 is larger than 2,000. So we place the biggest figure down for both sides. We choose the bigger side, whatever it is, and place it down there in both sides. Then we make a simple calculation. We say that 3,000 minus 3,000, the result is 0, so no balance here. But 3,000 minus 2,000, the difference equals to 1,000, so the balance equals to 1,000. Then we're gonna drag it to the credit side because the credit side is the one greater than the debit side by 1,000, so the balance here will be 1,000 credit. The same goes for utilities expenses, account receivable, and fees revenues. For those accounts with only one figure, it is very simple. Like utilities expenses, we only have 2,500 in the debit side, and this side is empty. So 2,500, I'm gonna place it here in the debit and here in the credit. Then we say 2,500 minus 2,500, 0, so no balance here. but 2500 minus 0 equals to 2500. This figure is calculated. It is not, we didn't bring it from the journal. This is the calculation. This is the balance. After we said 2500 minus 0, so the result is 2500. But which side is greater than the other? The debit side is the one greater than the credit side. So we drag this figure and bring it back to the debit side. So utilities expenses, its balance will be 2500 debit. The same goes for account receivable. The balance for account receivable will be 2500 debit. As for revenues, the balance will be 5000 credit. Okay, by calculating the balances for each account, we are now ready to go to the next step, which is preparing the trial balance. What is a trial balance? A trial balance is a list with the debit and the credit balances, and the total debit balances must be equal to the total credit balances, like this. Here is the trial balance for this example. You can see the cash balance is 11,000 debit, the building balance is 140,000 debit, the equipment 4,000 debit, supplies 3,000 debit, and so on. We gather all the debit balances and get its total. Then we gather all the credit balances and calculate its total, and the total balance of debit must be equal to the total balance of credit. That's all for now, and thank you.